All right, thank you everyone for coming today. This is our second workshop of the day. We appreciate everybody's time on a Saturday and coming to give your input. Today's purpose of the workshop is to provide with an updated conceptual concept of a project. This is not an actual project that has been submitted to the city in its full form. We are really at the very beginning stage of talking about concepts. Ed St. George has made some changes since it was last conceptually brought to the council, and we are here today to receive that update for you to discuss the project and to receive input. I would like to start with some logistics here because we are doing this in the environment of COVID-19. We have a clearance from the county to have this capacity of 50 people here. There's been a lot of demand for folks wanting to be engaged in this process, but we do ask you to please wear your masks and to maintain 6 feet distance unless you are together or a family. And when you're done, we ask you to please exit this way so that the next group starting at noon can be checking in on the side where you checked in. With that, I would like to let you know how we will run through the meeting today. There is 50 people, and we are also under the social distancing guidelines. So the way we would like to receive input from you today is we will have Ed St. George present the project with updated plans. Once again, it's a very conceptual at this point. And then you were all given cards as you were walking in. So we would like you to submit any thoughts, questions on those cards as we go through the presentation or following the presentation, or as we answer questions. And somebody will come around, we ask you to stay in your seats. Somebody will come around and collect those cards. We will look through those questions, answer as many as we can by subject. And then whatever is not answered, or if there's any detailed questions, all of this information will be collected, posted on the city website, and any detailed answers and explanations will be provided on the website as well. So every question will be eventually answered, and we will definitely hit all the highlights in the allowed time frame. With that, I would also like to just introduce you to the process and where we are. Jeremy, if we could just slide to the next slide. So I think this is really important for community to understand that we are not anywhere near a completion of authorizing, approving, or even having a project at hand. All we have is really a conceptual proposal from Ed St. George. Ed St. George is here because he purchased the old lumber yard parcel, as you would know it. And so with having that purchase and having that land, he approached us with a conceptual project that we are talking about today. So we are really here at step one. There's going to be a lot of conversation that would be the project shaping conversation. The conceptual idea was introduced to council, and now we're here doing these workshops with you. Our next steps after today would be to schedule smaller groups to where you would be able to have more of a conversational environment compared to this, to further provide ideas. And then all of that information will be provided to City Council for the next steps. There is a lot of people involved in this process. There's obviously the owners, if anything was to move forward for this project. It's the Ed St. George, the city, and the county. We're in the very beginning stages of even approaching this, and there may be many iterations and adjustments to the concept as we speak of it. So we're here today to provide you with the latest concept from Ed St. George, and then field the questions. Ed?
Thank you for coming. I appreciate that. This iteration is much different than the first iteration that I showed at the City Council meeting. Okay, is that better? Okay, I'm sorry. I can hear myself well up here, but the first iteration did have the Veterans Hall removed. I was not aware. I tried to get into the Veterans Hall for almost 3 weeks prior to that meeting because of COVID. It was literally impossible. I kept calling the number and calling it. Finally, the day before we had the meeting, I was able to come in here with a gentleman named Alvin and a couple of Jeff McEwen. And the second I walked in the doors, from the outside, the Veterans Hall just looks like a very obscure building. From the inside, I could feel the difference. And I knew the very minute I walked in, I had an issue on my hand, and there was going to have to be modifications. But this is how processes work. One of the gentlemen that I was with that day told me that his in-laws were married in this building in 1942. And so with that, things changed drastically. And so the new iteration that we have is the Veterans Hall is now, I don't know if anybody here has been to Rome. I'm sure much you have. But if you've been to the Pantheon was a social gathering places where the thinkers of the community would go. The plaza has been created around the Veterans Hall now. The Veterans Hall now is the centerpiece of this project. And if anybody has questions that they're already set up, this is my son Luca. He'll be happy to pick them up. If you just hold him up into the air, he'll come around and grab them. So anyways, here you see the Veterans Hall, exactly where it sits, exactly in the state that it is. There's no intention to touch this other than to remove the appendages that have been added on through the years. The Legion Hall, there's a small little office up over to the side. The Legion Hall, when I met with the veterans, I've met with the veterans 4 times. They love the idea of keeping the Veterans Hall, but they said the Legion area is what they use more than anything. The Veterans Hall gets used very little with them. The Legion Hall is the most important aspect. Once a month, they have a meeting there, they have a barbecue, and they come to gather and just to be friends. The Legion Hall would now be moved across the way. We went ahead and carved out this space. This area is larger than the existing Legion Hall right now. It has a larger storage area for the flags that they have right now, which is important. There's a small office off over here to my left. This is the same size as that office. These are handicap restrooms. One of the things that happened to be very important to the veterans was the barbecue area, because when they have this once a month meeting, they love to have their Santa Maria style barbecue. That's what this is area here. This is the barbecue area. So I just want to start off, Veterans Hall, American Legion, stays the same. The big difference, and I kind of got off onto a little more of a tangent in the last, and somebody brought this up to me. The big difference between what we have right now and what I would propose is this area has a large plaza out front here, and this is the centerpiece of this project. This is the heart, it's the passion, it's everything about this project. This is a stage where they could have graduations. These are stairs that kind of really lead up to nowhere. These are stairs that you can just sit on. But the idea is at 9 o'clock in the morning or 9:30, whatever it would be, there'd be ballast that come up here. These balustrades come up, okay, and this blocks this off to any kind of vehicular traffic. This is all walking, all pedestrian area in here. And the reason we do that is because that is very European. The car's only been around, as we all know, for about 140 years, tops. So this is all pedestrian, bicycle. The idea is to have the senior center. When I found out the senior center had 500 active members, it kind of knocked me out of my chair. You know, you got a community of 5,000 people and you have 500 active seniors. It's pretty amazing. Which was great news for me, because when I was telling them, let's double it. Let's bring it up to 1,000 people. Because when you go to Europe and you go to one of these plazas, a majority of the people here are going to be the older, they're going to be the seniors, they're going to be the people walking around, just getting out, not sitting home watching television. Europeans don't live longer because they eat better. Europeans live longer because they exercise more. They get out and they walk more. I lived in Europe for 5 years, and I know that to be a fact. So the idea is you have young mothers that are coming out here eating for lunch. meeting their girlfriends, meeting family members, kids learning to ride bicycles across here, being able to run around because it's a very safe area. Parents don't have to constantly keep an eye on them because there's no vehicular traffic. Most likely there's going to be a lot of people watching your kids here. The reason most of you don't live in a retirement home is because you still want to be around young people. You still want your family to visit you. You still want to have activities. The idea is for here is to create an area where people come to congregate. They feel safe. They don't have to worry about traffic, the noise, or getting run over. So once again, I was very happy to hear that there was 500. Love to get it up to 1,000 at least, just to really activate this whole area. If I could have the next slide, please. Okay, here's the key. And what this is, the pink is the hotel, the yellow is the commercial, the aqua is residential, purple administration, the two greens is the Veteran and American Legion, and the gray is the parking lot. So I'm going to start with, let's talk about the Veterans Building. How I see the Veterans Building is there's a promenade. There's a promenade on this side of the building here to my left, to your right. I would envision a promenade on the other side as well. It is not uncommon to modify buildings, especially ones that were built during the WPA project or any type of building historical, as long as it's done properly. The reason for the promenade is because this is a senior center. This is a veteran center. This is a graduation. This is where dances are held. This is pretty much everything in the community. But it really doesn't signify that this is a veterans center. This is the Veterans Memorial in Washington. This is the best iteration I could come up with. But the idea is on the outside in the promenade out there, in between the arches, you would actually see these plaques of memorandum here where the names of all the people that have served in the San Ynez Valley since World War I. That's typically what they do in Europe. You would have their ranking, their name, the day they died, and so on. So that would be on the entire exterior of the building. So you wouldn't even have to come into the building to understand that it actually is a Veterans Hall. And the reason they do a lot of this in European cities is, I mean, for those of you who have traveled into Europe, the main church or even the small church, a lot of times will even have a missal out front. But the first time I saw this when I went to Europe was like, why would they put a missal in front of a church? Well, it's to commemorate the fact that you're being able to walk in freedom. Freedom isn't free, as they say. And so what these churches are reminders of, hopefully to our politicians. I don't want to get esoterical here, but it's like before we go to war, let's think about this. Because here's a reminder of all the people who have died and given their lives for our freedom. And so the idea is the outside of this building would be a true memorial to the veterans. Once again, this is the Legion Hall. Now I want to kind of start describing this. These are 4-story buildings. The tallest elements of this entire project are out that direction. The reason they do these, okay, tall buildings were the way communities protected themselves. You would typically have the taller buildings, and then inside you would have the smaller village. They would close these tall buildings off to the outside during times of strife. Okay, so the idea is to emulate. We could certainly put these to the back. People wouldn't see them from the street, but that is not European. So the idea, 4 stories. This is a wellness center hotel. This isn't your typical hotel. There are no rooms on the first floor. This is a very large building. There are swimming pools. There's a spa. There's a small restaurant. This is a wellness center. You come here, this isn't like for a one-night stay typically. This is where you come for 4 days, for a week, 2 weeks. You come here to regenerate. You come here to actually get in shape, lose stress. This isn't a typical hotel. Okay, now go back, commercial, residential, Pine, Maple, all residential along Maple. We're not touching Pine Street, okay? This whole street here would still recognize the fact that it's all residential. One of the things you're not seeing right here, there are 7 affordable sheriff's units up on top of this parking, okay? Right here, these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are sheriff's units, affordable sheriff units. If there is a disaster, like we've had in Santa Barbara, we've had fires, we've had slides. The only reason we had law enforcement available to us in Santa Barbara during the slide was because we had a fire, okay? Otherwise, we would have been cut off from the rest of the world without any law enforcement at all. The other thing about law enforcement, when I was in high school, my high school wrestling coach was a cop, all right? It was great having these guys involved in our community. It's important to have law enforcement interwoven in your community. It's also important to have teachers interwoven in your community as well. I'm not appropriating any unit for teachers on this project, but I am for the Sheriff's Department because I think it's important. It's a great place for sheriffs to live. It's perfect. It's right in between Santa Barbara, Lompoc, Santa Maria, but moreover, Solvang is a great place for sheriffs to live, and I think they would enjoy living here, and I think you'd enjoy having them live here. That guy, by the way, is very rare to have a homegrown sheriff in your community. Yeah, let's hear it. It's highly unusual, but it works great. This line is the 4-story line. These are 6-story buildings. This is what I've envisioned along Mission Street, okay? To take it up to here, it wouldn't have a European feel. So what we figured is 4 stories is about the minimum we could actually really go to create a real traditional look. I'm not trying to compare Copenhagen with Solvang. Only reason I keep comparing Cope is because of the design, the older designs. Once again, could we go back one more? One more? Perfect. These commercial spaces are very small. If you look at this coffee shop, if we have been to Europe, you'll remember that most of the shops there, the shopkeepers, usually a lot of times are owners, owner-operators. That's the idea here. These are 50 meter, about 500 square feet, these smaller places. This is about 1,200. This right here is about 1,500. These are for sale units. These are for sale as well. The reason for the smaller design is for artisans. If you're somebody who wants to make the best croissants on the planet, but you don't feel like paying for a 1,500 or a 2,500 square foot store, you can actually have a store that's about 500 square feet, which is about, this is, like I say, this, if you look at this right here, this is about 15 feet across, all right? These will end up being about 20 feet across. You can easily get in a small store. For 10% down, you can get an SBA loan, and you can actually have an owner-operator. They can depreciate the property. They can write off their payments. They can actually survive. They can become a part of your community. One of the great things about Europe that I find is when you go get an ice cream, you're going, how come this ice cream tastes so much better than it does in the United States? Well, it's because it's not being made in a factory. It's made by the guy most likely who's going to serve you, or his children are going to serve you. That's what I'm trying to create here. I want to create a space where artisans can come and actually sell what they sell really well. These units on this back here, this is not commercial. We'll get to that in the next slide. This is kind of the look when you see these larger areas coming in here. These are kind of like the pop-ups, like the produce pop-ups. There's not a lot of money in produce. So but there's a lot of farming in the valley and up in Santa Maria as well. So if you had these type of pop-ups where they have to pay very minimal amounts of rent, it's really a blessing for the community. And that's what these outdoor spaces are really created for. Christmas market, that's what the plaza's for. You have an opportunity where the schools, all the other charities, all of them can come together, open up in here for a couple of weeks of Christmas. This is the feel. This picture, right, I thought best depicted what this feel like coming down this street right here. We can't, unfortunately, do cobble because in the United States, you can't have more than a 1/4 inch deviation for wheelchairs. This is something I've spent a lot of time on right now because this feel is very important to me. So I don't know, love the picture, but don't love the cobble because it's really not legal in the United States. This is kind of the feel without cars, where you have these spaces where people can actually put the tables and chairs. Could I have the next one, please? This is the residential area here. These, believe it or not, they look like they're really small, but these are 3-story buildings. 1, 2, 3. And these are all be aligned here. These are for sale units. The idea on these here is we build these. We don't put a kitchen in. We don't put a bathroom in. We plumb for it. And we don't put the flooring in. And the reason we do that is because, one, you can actually design your own kitchen, design your own bathroom, and put your own flooring in, which is usually very personal. But the real issue is, too, it gives an opportunity for the local tradespeople to actually have jobs. And it gives the people, if you're coming up from Los Angeles and you don't know nobody, and then you buy this apartment here, or you buy this condominium, you don't know who built the kitchen, you don't know who did the bathroom, you don't know who did the flooring, but if you have to go meet the contractors, you're going to see them. You go out to dinner, it's like, oh, hey, there's our painter. That's the idea. It's going to help the local economy, the local contractors, which I am myself, and I think that's important. I hate to see developments come into Santa Barbara that are large developments that don't do anything for the local economy during the construction. It doesn't have to be that way. This is all hotel here. This is parking, admin building. Next, please. 3 minutes? Okay. This is just the next level. This is a hotel over the parking lot. This is a little tricky because, believe it or not, parking structures vibrate and they move. They're meant to move for earthquakes. We live in an earthquake area. This is how I kind of envision this area looking here. This is part of the hotel, but the idea is to make this look like another little European neighborhood. You know, narrower streets. These are only one and with lofts, 1-story with lofts. Once again, this is the activity. This is the Mission Drive. Next, please. This is the last picture, okay? This is all 4-story. This building, this round look here, is very typical of Europe because of walking paths, also too because of plazas. These are the money shots. These are where you want to live. These are the people, you want to be looking at the activity that's going on in that plaza. Once again, this is that same street we looked at kind of from afar, but this is the idea, this is the look that we're looking for. Next, please. A lot of talk about the senior center, the library. When I was using the word cyber library, a lot of people thought cyber library meant no books. That's not the case at all. A cyber library is one of the things I was explaining to some of the people outside just a little bit ago, is during COVID we realized that even though a lot of people have cell phones, the lower income group of people, we lost almost 30% of the students across the state of California because they didn't have high-speed internet at home. This library is roughly 2 times the size of the library that exists right now. I'm not going to run the library, and honestly, I'm not going to become a part of the library other than the fact that the size is here. My suggestion is if they are going to put in a new library, that they have a large tech center. Seniors use computers. It's $250 a month to have high-speed internet at your home. You wouldn't have to have that. You could have it here. Seniors could learn how to use the computer if they don't know how to use it already. Kids, about the time seniors start going home, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, kids start getting out of school. They could come over here, have classes afterwards, use this. This would actually be a business center for the entire community. The senior center down here, it's almost 5,000 square feet. These are the council chambers, supervisor's office, and city offices here. The senior center is on the main level of the plaza. This is a 4-story building. It appears to be a small 3-story with an upper roof with dormers. So the senior center is on the bottom floor. Next, please. And that's it. Okay, perfect.
All right, thank you, Ed. I would like to just address a couple of procedural questions before we jump into questions for Ed. One of the questions, how can we provide written feedback to the council regarding this new concept? So we have an email address, council at cityofsolving.com. That's again council@cityofsolving.com. That email goes to all of the council members. You're welcome to use that, and that would be a good way for you to provide feedback and questions. And then I also would like to introduce who is here today. I'm Zina Bradford. I'm city manager. We have Lori Tamura here, who is our planning consultant, Chip Woolbrand, city attorney, and Matt Vanderling, who is our public works director and city engineer. And I would like to first start with a question that Lori can answer, and that has to do with where we are in the process, who has the authority to approve this project. So I would like Lori to answer that question.
Hello, my name is Lori Tamura, and I'm working with the City of Solving in their planning department. And the project as currently sits today is in its initiation process, preliminary designs, working through community involvement, and the City Council sometime towards the end of the year will initiate a project. A formal application will be submitted to the planning department that will include architecture, engineering, landscape plans, supporting documentation for traffic, and a number of other environmental issues. At that point, the project will be going through a scoping hearing for an environmental impact report. That project will take several months to be generated into a draft environmental document that will be circulated for public comment and review for 45 days. Response to comments happen after that, and then it will be a staff report to the Planning Commission, and then a staff report to the City Council. So the process will take 18 months plus to get through, and through that whole series, there will be a number of opportunities for public engagement, including the normal scheduled hearings as well as other community organizational groups. So that's basically what we're looking forward to in the next year and a half.
Right, and I would actually also like to add and clarify once again that we are very much at the conceptual beginning of a conversation project shaping process. There is different owners to this project. It's the private property, Ed, the city, and the county. For this project to move forward, we would actually have to work through with all of those entities, as well as continue to shape what the conceptual project is before it can become a project that goes through the process that Lori just described. And with that, we can turn into some of the conceptual questions for Ed. The first one would have to do with the Veterans Hall. Ed St. George updated concept diagram shows an American Legion building. Is there a similar dedicated building for the veterans of foreign wars, and why not?
Can we go back to the perfect? Once again, like I say, the appendage that was built at some point. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I'm not used to this. The Veterans Hall, the American Legion Veterans Hall stays where it is, as it is. The American Legion area, like I said, this is where it is currently right now. This is the flag storage area. There's a small office over off to my left. It's the same size as that. These are handicap restrooms, and this is the barbecue area that is over here. I do want to say that this is owned by the City of Solving, so nothing's going to change. If there's still going to be community events, let's say you're going to have a dance for the high school, you want to do a fundraiser, you're still going to have, it's going to be the same availability, but what's going to be much different, much more different, and in my opinion, much greater, if you do, let's say you want to have a high school play and you want to invite a whole bunch of people. The play could be up here, the play could be here, but the great part is that how I feature these windows is kind of going down, becoming doors, and those go out onto the plaza. This, once again, this is the heartbeat. This is the area. I picture the Veterans Hall being used much, much more than it has been in the past for community events. The American Legion area, like I said, they can still do their monthly meetings there, but the city could also rent this space out for other events as well. And what's great is that, sorry? Oh, I thought you were waving me to be quiet.
Go ahead. So the next question has to do with senior center. Does the development plan provide for the needs of the Solving Senior Center to serve the growing senior demographic in our community? Those needs, as defined in our proposed new center capital campaign materials, are 4,725 square of space to allow multiple concurrent activities and accommodate 125 persons to gather for a meal at one time. Efforts to accomplish this, including an extension of the lease of county land, have been underway for 2+ years.
Great question. Senior Center, bottom floor. I met with the seniors, okay. I received the plan that their dream plan. They've come up with 30% of what they could get to enlarge the senior center. Currently, it sits right up to my right. I'm sure you most know that. This senior center is their dream size. This is what they wish for. And this is what's called purpose-built. This is the senior center. And the reason I kind of made this whole curve here is because one of the things I think is important with a lot of windows, this area out here would be a large patio area. So if there was large events, let's say they did get all 1,000 people, like would be my dream. I'm sure theirs as well. This could easily contain it. I didn't put any walls in here because this is we're still at concept level, but these dots here, it would be unrealistic to think that we could actually span that without some sort of structural supports. But right now, what this is just one big giant area, and it is the size of the area that the seniors explained to me they would love to have.
All right, next we have a library question. The Solvang Library has greater use than any of the other entities in the public admin building, 38 to 58 visitors hourly in 2019. Your proposed square footage is inadequate. How can it be doubled?
Well, it is doubled. Right now, the Solvang Center is about 2,000 to 2,500 square feet, and if you look at this library is at 4,200 square feet, so it is doubled.
Next one has to do with restaurants and vacancies. Too many vacant restaurants and retail in Solvang already. No more needed.
That is this project, and that's what all this project is. If we could go back to the just one perfect. Okay, that's fine too. The idea is here is to give people a reason to stay longer. One of the things that I envision Solvang as the bicycle capital of California, if not the entire United States. It's perfect climate. It's the perfect setup. Right now with COVID, what you have is a situation where you can easily change the paradigm of the community. This is a crisis like the country's never experienced before. What I was telling the last group is that when I saw Warren Buffett sell all his airplane stock at the bottom of the market, that told me that the greatest investor in the world does not have any faith in airline travel again for any time in the near future. So what is that for Solvang, Mijo? What you have right now, which is a great opportunity, you have 25 million people. That's larger than a lot of countries. You have 25 million people living 2.5 to 3.5 hours from here that mostly hate where they live. They need to get away. They want to go somewhere. Palm Springs works great. People don't go to Palm Springs for like a day, for 4 hours. People go to Palm Springs for a time. I would love to see Solvang become that place. You come up to Solvang, you come up to the San Ynez Valley, and you spend a week. You come up here, you lose weight, you lose stress. If you don't build it, right now what's happening is Buellton is building it. Buellton is advertising that they are Solvang. People go to Buellton, they get in their car, they drive from Buellton, they create traffic for Solvang, and then they drive back to Buellton. I would rather have Solvang have control of the type of hotels and the type of community that you would like to see here. This is a European village. This has a much different feel. If Buellton, I don't see why they should be getting all the TOT and you suffer from all the traffic. If we could build the bike lanes that I'm hearing that the community really wants, put a bike lane to Buellton. They could ride their bikes here. You could ride your bikes to Buellton. You could ride your bikes to Ballard. This really needs to be a biking community. That's how I see Solvang. And that is going to give people a reason to come to Solvang. Bicyclists are the highest income earners per sport in the United States. Higher than golfers, higher than tennis players. And they typically go on a vacation for a week when they're riding.
Will this be a chain hotel?
No. Well, I don't know, maybe. I'm not envisioning a chain hotel. What I'm envisioning is something more, it's not a boutique hotel because the size is much greater than that, but this is a wellness center. Like I said, this is, please park your car in this giant parking garage that you don't see. Park your car, get on your bike, walk, go discover the valley for a week. The idea is not to have people come in here. I was talking to some of the hotel owners this last week. Ironically, the owner of the Lansby, the first question he asked was Jim Cannell. He says, "How can I help you get this built?" Well, he's going to be my direct competition. Why would he want to see this hotel built? His $350, $450 a night ADR, I'm going to be competing with him because he understands this is going to bring the type of tourist that we all want to see. These are higher spenders, longer stays. This creates less traffic.
Why are 4 stories necessary, especially backing up to the residential areas?
Once again, that's a 4-story. These are 5- and 6-story buildings. This is a European look. The idea is to create Europe, a real Europe, not a wallpaper Europe.
How will you integrate the gorgeous California mission style of the Vets Hall and adjacent mission?
Once again, we're not really touching the Vets Hall here. The only, like I say, the idea is, this is just at my level right now. I'd like to see another promenade on this side like they have on this side. I'd like to see these become doors on both sides where this becomes, when it's not being used, you could display art. This is a place that should be open, I would think, during the day like a lot of churches. This building should be used a lot more and a lot more, in my opinion. I was actually looking at the list on how many days this building gets used. It's not that many days. It really isn't. Everybody likes to think about how many days it's been used. It's used a lot, but this is a building that really should be used 5-6 days a week. It's a beautiful building. If it is the center of this community, there's no reason why this building shouldn't be open to the public on a daily basis.
Right. We don't need a second Solvang. Why build a second one?
I'm sorry?
We don't need a second Solvang. Why build a second one?
Well, this isn't a second Solvang. That's not how I see it. What this is a real iteration of a European Solvang. What you have right now is an American version of a European city. This is not a European city right now. This is a European design. This is very European. The blend is there is more residence than there is commercial. The idea is if one of the problems they're experiencing right now in Santa Barbara, the Paseo Nuevo is dead. It's finished. It's over. The reason it is because there is no housing downtown, because it is built like Americans used to build. You build the retail and you build track housing around it. Everybody drives in, everybody drives out. Those days are over. They're over. Our malls are dying. In fact, they're dead. The Paseo Nuevo is dead right now, and the reason it is, nobody lives there. If they would get people to live there, this place is going to be on fire. Senior Center, City Hall, all these residences, all the seniors coming from across the street, hopefully just coming in here, meeting people. This is the idea, is to make this, to bring this alive. This is not going to be a detriment to the community. The hotels that exist already, that are getting $100 a night for the ADR, you have the Lansby, you have Alisal, and you'll have this wellness center where the room night start at about $400 a night. So you have $100 night hotels, you have $400. Well, there's nothing in the middle. So what happens is these hotels start raising their prices, they start remodeling themselves, they start filling in the middle gaps.
Okay. We'll give you just a little break and let our Public Works Director ask a question about water. Mike?
I'm just going to speak. I don't need that. I'm good. Okay, I'm on video. Okay, so this question is about the water demand that the project would have and whether or not the city has sufficient water supplies and if that will impact the water rates and cause the water rates to go up. So that's a really good question. It's a very important question. Of course, our water supply is a really critical need for the city. So as Zine had mentioned, we're at the very beginning preliminary stages of this conceptual project. So as the project moves forward and things are more defined, we will be looking very closely at the water demand, not just the domestic water demand, but also the fire flow demand for fire protection for the project. And that will be addressed in the environmental impact report. And then the staff will have requirements for the developer to analyze the impact of the project on the city's existing water distribution system and our water storage reservoirs and all of that. So all of that will be analyzed. It's really too early to say how that will impact rates or anything, but just so you kind of keep it in perspective, our water usage before this past drought that we've all went through, this 7-year drought, our water usage was quite high before that, and the water demands have gone down quite a bit because of additional water conservation efforts and because of the drought. So right now our water usage is quite a bit lower than what it was in 2009, 2010, 2011. But all of it will be analyzed very carefully to make sure we can properly serve the project and to minimize any impact to the existing customers. Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. Next question has to do with apartments. Are there too many apartments in the proposed conceptual development?
Well, I don't think there's too many apartments. These apartments are the apartments that we have proposed are about 500 to 550 square feet. Those are great for single people, couples of all ages. Are they great for raising a family? No, they're one bedrooms. Up top along Maple, those will all be 3 and 4 bedrooms. That's the residential neighborhood up there. The apartments that are here, these apartments are going to be set mostly for singles and people without children, quite frankly. The idea is this is where you come to get your start. They're affordable by design, meaning that they're small enough where they can actually be purchased by maybe a first-time house buyer or as someone else that wants to come and retire. They don't need a large space, but they also want to be in the center of town. They want to be able to walk downstairs. They want to be able to see activity out their windows. They don't want to have a house, that's 2,500 square feet with a big yard in it. That's the idea of these apartments here.
All right. Next one is, whose idea was this project, and how has it come this far without Solvang residents being surveyed and then voting?
It was actually my son's idea, so if anybody's going to get mad at him, it's fine. No, this was my idea. I came up here to build, I was going to build 70 units on this property right next door to us. I bought it from Mitch Williams. Your mayor called me, said, hey, could we talk about this project? We'd really not like to have more housing because Solvang's coming into some financial issues. We would really like to see more of a hotel. We could use the TOT. And also, too, we're kind of trying to turn Solvang a little more, a little more upscale. At the time, my answer to him was, I have no interest in building a hotel up here. I'm building in Santa Barbara because my ADR is about $400 a night. We were sitting in the Lansby that night, and he told me that, well, this place gets about $350, $400 a night for ADR. I got up from the table, I walked over to the desk, I asked the girl, I said, I'd like to stay here tonight. How much is a room? She says, we have one left. This is before COVID. She says, we have one left, and it's $375 plus the tax, the TOT, which came out to about $430. I went back to the conversation. I said, okay, I'm interested.
Okay, next question. Solving has always been the working man weekend trip. How do you change that?
Well, I don't want to stop that this is the working man's. I'm a carpenter myself. This is a great place. I'd love to see working people come here. That's the idea of building these smaller apartments, in fact. You know, those are good, they're good people. I mean, I don't understand, most people do work unless you're retired. But the idea is to turn Solving from day trippers. Right now, Solving is a potty stop for the most part for these tour buses. They come up, they stop in that parking lot, they're handed a bag lunch as they walk out of the bus. They all use the restroom. They walk around for a few hours. They get back on the bus, and they go on their way to San Francisco or to Monterey where they're going to be going. It's the same thing when it's coming back. Ironically, when you look at most of the Google Map pictures, there are tour buses in the street. You currently have about 1.5 million people a year coming into Solvang. That's too many. Ideally would be great. Let's get them down to about 500,000 and raise the prices of the hotel rooms about 4 times, get people that can actually afford $150 or $200 dinner between the two of them. Let these people come up here, enjoy themselves, really enjoy the valley for all the value that it has. This isn't representative of what the valley has to offer. I want you to come up, get in this place, get a great trainer, get on a bike, ride around, ride up to the falls, you know, really discover, go horseback riding, go golfing, do what you're gonna do, but don't just come up here for a day or 4 hours. Come up here and really enjoy the valley. It's gonna drop the amount of traffic that you have tremendously. It really is.
Next question has to do with parking. Will the inevitable overflow parking that cannot be handled by a parking garage or existing parking lot jam up our neighborhoods? Will you issue parking permits to residents to park in their neighborhoods?
Well, if there's not a parking problem right now for the residents, I don't see a reason to have to issue parking permits for residences. The parking structure on this, once again, we're at a 40,000-foot view. It should be sufficient for what we're looking at. It could change, but the idea is hopefully park your car. Don't even get in your car for the next week while you're staying here. Get on your bicycle, walk, go places, get on the trolley, go do what you want to do. Getting in your car and driving everywhere, driving over to Buellton, driving over to Ballard. Get on your bike, ride over to Ballard, ride over to Buellton. It's a beautiful ride. That's the idea. That's the push. We can push that. That's what your council's trying to push right now, is by putting in all these bike lanes. You know, what they want to do is they want to take the traffic off the road, put them in bicycles, get this place to be the health center.
All right, next question has to do with traffic. Who wants a big tourist attraction, crowds, traffic, etc.?
I love traffic, I love congestion. I'm kidding. I mean, it's not. The idea is we need to have a reason. I mean, you want your grandkids, you want your kids, you want your family to come visit you while you're here. This project, by the time this is built, I'll be so old I'll hardly be able to enjoy it. This is if everything goes smoothly. The idea is this is for future generations. This is for the future of Solvang. This creates a tremendous amount of jobs that will be here locally, all right? One thing that Solvang doesn't have right now. This creates opportunities for people to come here and live their dream out. If you're 50 years old, you got a great city or county retirement, you can come up here, buy one of these stores, open a store, build your dream, do what you want to do. I mean, the idea is come up here, be healthy.
All right, we only have enough time for one question left, and this is probably an easier one. Why was the original planned fountain removed?
Fountain. Oh. Could we go to the plaza? I think it's just the next one. Originally, there was a fountain put in the middle, and one of the things that came out of the first meeting is that they didn't want another fountain. I heard a lot of people, we don't need another fountain in Solvang. So we took the fountain out. But that's why, there was a fountain.
All right. Ed, do you have any concluding statements? Anything you would like to?
I didn't get to a lot of the questions. The last meeting is at 1:30. I will stick around after that. If people have other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I'm sorry that it was so quick, but it just was quick. So I apologize for that. But like I say, we're also going to have questions that will be answered on the website. So if you do have questions that were asked, I'll be answering as many as I can on the emails.
Thank you, Ed. And just to remind you all once again, any questions or detailed questions that were submitted in all of these sessions will be posted on the website with detailed answers. It all will be on the cityofsolvang.com website. We are also going to be, as I mentioned in the beginning of the meeting, scheduling some smaller sessions to where those who want to continue this conversation in a more of a conversational manner can have meetings and time with Ed to have questions and answers. And of course, all of this, once again, is in the beginning conceptual project status. It's only a concept. We are talking about project shaping, and all of this community input will be brought to the City Council for the next steps, and we encourage you to come and continue public participation and provide your public input. And thank you everybody very much for coming here today on a Saturday and joining us.
Thank you.